Um, Good morning and/or afternoon to everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. And thanks for joining us. So welcome to the third installment of our Understanding AI series. Today we're going to be talking a bit less about technology. We're going to talk about our process and how we've found value in disaggregating use cases and really starting to understand how we can enable people in a way that can mitigate some unforeseen circumstances. So, Anna, I think we're looking at a series of goals here for today. And with that, I am going to hand it to Anna.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Before we jump in, I'll introduce myself. I'm Anna DeGiulio. I joined Impact about 2 months ago now as the AI Business Analyst. I'm based out of Chicago, and I'm working on a daily basis with my team members here, John and Chris. A little bit about myself. I've been focused on emerging technology my entire career and finding ways to enable people to adopt that technology to improve their everyday experience, both in work and in their personal lives. Really excited to have that opportunity to continue doing that work here at Impact. And now let's jump into our presentation today. So first and foremost, our goals for the presentation. We'd like to start by educating on the value that AI can unlock within an organization for its employees. We'd like to demonstrate our methodology, the process we follow here at Impact to bring AI to life. We'll inspire with some success stories and look ahead into our roadmap on where we're going with this technology. And lastly, we'll look to encourage all of you to stay actively engaged and be driving forces in Impact's commitment to adopting AI solutions. All right, AI delivers. We'll start here. AI delivers value for employees and organizations. As the AI business analyst here at Impact, I use AI every single day. I hope that's no surprise to any of you on the call, but I'm using AI in my process so that we can move use cases forward and eventually enable all of you as Impact employees to use AI as well and unlock this value for yourselves. That value includes reducing the administrative burden of everyday tasks that exist in your workflow and freeing up your time to focus on more strategic and meaningful work that exists in your team for your department and for Impact. We're looking to enable everyone through AI solutions to make better decisions with data, being able to converse with the data that exists in your space to make better decisions quicker. Overall, through implementing AI into your workflows, we're simplifying your processes and allowing you to focus your time on that strategic work that's going to push Impact towards our business objectives.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. I agree with all of those points. And like the thing I think that gets sort of hidden in all of that is all of these points, all of the things that we're striving after line up with the overall organizational goals, right? It lines up with our journey to higher revenue, for our 10% net income goals. These are really the culmination of small movements that add up to big things. And I think the point you made in there that I really want to like focus on is the idea that individuals using AI and having that sort of snowball effect, right? It's our goal as a team to help you operationalize those things. The individual points in which people are using Copilot or ChatGPT or putting themselves in a position to do something more efficiently, it's our task to understand those processes and how we can intercede in a way that operationalizes it and makes it bigger. And I think there's a point about scalability in here too, Anna.
Yeah, I love that, John. And as we are operationalizing AI here at Impact through each and every one of you, we're improving our customers' experience with us and overall allowing impact as an organization to scale. Over the last couple of years, this space has really taken off because all executives, small, medium, large enterprise executives, are reading on LinkedIn about how if they don't engage with AI now, if they don't adopt it, they're going to be left behind. But they're not willing to take the risk to bring those capabilities in-house, understand AI themselves, so they seek consultancies to do this work for them. And as Impact, we're doing this. And I'd like to ask Jon, what are the conversations we're having today, and where do you see our consulting services for AI going?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? The kinds of conversations I was having around AI in 2022, there was probably about 4 of them, and they involved machine learning and some other things like some chatbot type technology that was kind of dumb. Into 2023 and 2024, I've been having 4 of these kinds of conversations a week, maybe more, right? And the things I'm hearing from people, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that it started off very hesitant. People were very much didn't know what was happening in this particular space, were unsure if they should even be paying attention to it. As those conversations and time as they've matured and time has gone on, right? People are coming to us now with ideas and use cases and problems that they're looking to solve. I'm still getting a fair amount of people who just are very uncertain in the space. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to start. And an increase, though, in people saying, can I use AI to do this? How should I use AI? How should I enable Copilot? So what we've done in order to bring this to the market and better enable these conversations is, first off, this is outlined on the webpage, right? But on the managed services, digital transformation, AI webpage on Impact My Biz, it will lay out and tell you that first we look at a pretty basic process of like, how can we get in and educate? How can we make sure that everyone knows what's going on and what we should be using this technology for? From there, we get into the infrastructure review. What is happening inside your environment around data? What are some core things that you're trying to enable from an AI perspective? Those core things need to have solid foundations. You have to have good data, good systems, good interoperability of those systems. From there, we now start diving into the use cases and really figuring out what is valuable about these use cases, and then ultimately moving toward implementation. So what's interesting about that plan is across the last, almost 2 years at this point, what we found is we can plug customers' maturity levels around AI into any one of those buckets. So if someone doesn't understand the marketplace at all, we can help get them there in an education move. If they already have some things that are happening, we can help them understand the foundations. If they have nothing except good foundations and education, we can help them discover use cases, which really is what we're going to be talking about more in this, is like, what do we do when we find use cases that are applicable, right? But having a service from a consulting perspective that offers to meet people where they're at doesn't ignore their hesitations or the societal impulse of down pressure on some AI things. It doesn't ignore any of that. It captures it and allows us to have the kinds of conversations that are going to be beneficial. We're talking about the SMB, right? And what we've done well at Impact is figure out how to take enterprise level technology and thinking and apply it to the SMB in a way that is beneficial to them at the appropriate scale. So this is the same maneuver from a consulting perspective. How do we get in and have these conversations and meet people where they're at to bring them what they need to make this successful? So yeah, I don't think these numbers are off. I think they're probably a little bit low from a consulting perspective, because there's been some peaks and valleys of technological release across the last couple of years. Things get hot, then people get negative on them. Frank DeGiulio wrote a nice piece about the hype cycle and the crash of the hype cycle that talks about this a little bit more in depth. But, we sort of weather those things as we go through it and keep the enthusiasm in a spot that's realistic, right? So in those kinds of peaks and valleys, I feel each one of the peaks of new technological release has even more excitement around it. So we're going to make our way toward better and better technology. A lot
Yep.
of what we're doing is foundation laying. That was probably way more than
100%.
me to say, but
No, thank you, John. This was
I hope I
great.
answered.
You did, and a great intro into what we're doing today for our customers as it relates to AI. Now we'll pivot a little bit into what we're doing for impact, how we're delivering AI internally, and then how that will allow us to scale more than those foundations, but actual frameworks and solutions to our customers in that consulting space. So we're delivering AI for impact internally right now through a value-driven methodology. And we're doing this because you see that 70% failure rate statistic. 70% of digital transformation projects walk the line of failure. And that's not because the technology isn't equipped to meet business goals and drive companies towards their objectives, but it's because the value isn't made clear to the people who are intended to use that technology to get to those business goals. And what we're doing at Impact through following this methodology is focusing first on the value. For every use case in our roadmap, we're starting with a value assessment. And we're sharing that value that we believe we can uncover through an AI solution for these problems with the stakeholders and the end users, getting buy-in early from each and every one of you so that you feel committed to actively engage throughout our process and then go on and champion these AI solutions in your workflow so that we see the value realized at the end of this process.
Yeah.
The process, go ahead, John.
Yeah. Do you mind? I'm sorry.
No, feel free.
I think this is the sort of most important piece of this kind of methodology, not only for us internally, but also how we bring this to customers, right? This to me is core, because one of the anxieties that exists in the world is that, AI is going to revolutionize everything to the point where no one is needed to do particular jobs and so on and so forth. Our user-centric approach really starts with, well, what jobs and what tasks are you actually doing? And the conversation is not about how can we take all of those things away from individuals, right? It's more about how can we enable you to do better, more meaningful work? How can we dedicate ourselves to the idea that work can be different? It can be a better way to get through the tasks that are required of you to hit the end result, but also free you up to do the things that humans are better at doing than machines, right? Empathetic work, things that require conversations and nuance, things that require timing that aren't applicable to the kinds of things we're talking about. So if we start with value, what does it mean to an organization to actually have this come true in the world? If this task is automated, if this process is more efficient, right? We have the fuel now to push into the space of the value or the user area to say, now, once this is gone, you are going to be doing these things, and this is why this process matters for you. And keeping those things centered gives us a rationality that moves us through that hype cycle. It moves us through the peaks and valleys and the crashes, and it puts us on that plane of actual productivity. Like, here we are reasonably thinking about advanced technology with value and a user-centric approach, and we're pushing that forward. The technology can blow up and be the best technology in the world. We're still holding that particular line, delivering the value and centering users, right? There's a reason to moving through it at this particular pace in this way. And honestly, the 70% failure rate is a huge reason why this methodology was developed in the MDX space to begin with, right? It, like you said, it doesn't fail because technology isn't good, right? It fails because people don't adopt. It fails because leadership changes and they no longer are inspired to do the things previous leadership was. Like, these are the things that are accounted for in a user-centric, value-forward approach that frames these things in the appropriate way so they have time to withstand and flourish.
Completely agree, John. Let's walk through that process now, where we're unlocking the value and where the users are engaging with us so that we're driving valuable use cases that will find success once deployed here at Impact, leveraged by the end users, and good feedback is provided on their functionality. So we start with ideation, and this is when we're assessing the value of a use case. What is the potential impact that this use case will have on the key stakeholders, departments, even down to the employee level? And once we assess that value, we feel comfortable moving forward into actually solutioning something to solve this problem, to find this value. And that's where we're getting the users fully engaged. In our planning phase, this is the requirements gathering portion of the process. We're engaging with the end users to help us design that solution, how the end user would like to interact with this solution, this product, where within the workflow it would find the most value to be leveraged, how the solution speaks, sounds, even are some requirements that we're looking to field from our users so that once this is developed, it's not going to be something that they have challenges adopting, but rather they're excited to get their hands on the technology.
Exactly.
Love it. All of these requirements are laid out then into a project plan, which we bring in to build and test. We're executing against that plan, building out each of these requirements. At the same time, we're following an iterative and agile approach here to get our users involved, to test out the functionality and provide feedback early and often, again, so we can make sure that the product or the solution that we're giving to the organization is valuable. We don't want to wait until we've put all the time in and the effort in to design something and build it and still have it not be what the end user wants. So we're getting end users engaged here. We're taking your feedback and we're iteratively developing these solutions before we take it any further into the next steps of the process.
Yeah, exactly. And that is by design from the processes that we've learned in agile implementation and what it means to break a waterfall process. These are all designed to develop and ship better solutions, right? This is designed to mitigate the 70% failure rate by including people in all of these conversations, capturing things that were previously thought of as scope creep and instead thinking of them as additional features and ways to enhance, right? These points are crucial to build things successfully.
Yeah, and another thing to add on that is we're not going to stay in the build and test phase forever because there's just an influx of capabilities that the users are saying, oh, now we should add this. We're going to stick to the value that we are expecting and that we put together at the beginning of this process and making sure that that is in the solution we're developing, because down the line in this process, we'll have the opportunity to add new capabilities and put out new revisions of these solutions that are even more valuable. But again, we want to get this technology into your hands. So that means we have to, at some point, put some guardrails on those feedback loops within build and test.
Agreed.
Once we have accomplished the build and test phase and we feel as if the solution is ready for prime time, at least the minimum viable product or version 1, we'll get that over to our legal team to review, make sure we're compliant in the way we're using AI and other technology solutions, making sure it's in line with Impact's technology policy as well. And we'll do a couple more validation checks to make sure we're ready to get this into the hands of an expanded group of users. That's when we're launching. We're making sure that end users are aware of the solution, that it's now available. We're providing training if required and any process adoption steps that are needed and change management in this phase of our process. That leads us into the continuous improvement phase, where we have that second feedback loop set up. We're getting feedback now that our solution is live on what they want next, what each and every one of you want in the future from this type of solution. And we're adding those to a backlog for our team to then take back through this process, making sure we're continuing to put value and user first and moving through the process to put out into the world new and improved versions of our solutions.
Yeah. And this is the sort of last spot where we highlight the idea that we're building with value, with people as a center point to how we do these particular solutions. If we don't continue that process, we don't measure, if we don't understand, here's why it was successful, here's where it wasn't, here's where we can tweak, this is what matters, right? Then it just exists in the world and inherits the 70% failure rate of usage. This is the best laid plan can fail if it's not attended to for the long term.
Agree. And we would hate to see that happen with a solution like Artie.
Wonderful, Artie.
Let's talk a little bit about how Artie went through this process and where we're at today. So Artie, back in March, went through the value assessment. We understood that our HR team is a team of 3. We're a growing organization, now over 1,000 people. The HR team needs support in taking some of those tasks off their plate so they can focus on strategic HR work. The value case is there. Adding a team member without adding the cost is how Artie was developed as a use case here for impact.
Yeah, this is one of the values, right? How can we scale? How can we take the things that are rote and repetitive for our HR team and put them into a space that they don't have to attend to in the same way, and instead can free them up to actually do the things that first off are more enjoyable, and secondly use their humanness better than answering the same 15 repeated HR questions. So yeah, this is a valuable thing to bring to the table. So what happened next?
What happened next was we got our HR team involved in the planning phase, letting us know what HR documentation exists that they believe is necessary for Artie to understand and be able to field questions on. There are also some specificities in here on the different documentation for different locations of offices that we have at Impact and where different people sit within the organization and the applicability of this content to themselves in particular. During the planning phase, we got all of these details from the HR team. We also talked through the persona that we would want HRD taking on. We wouldn't want HRD taking on the persona of somebody who isn't happy to be at work every day and love what they do as an HR team member. That just wouldn't be a good look. So we were able to get that from the HR team so that Artie, as we solution built and test, was throwing emojis in their responses and giving off a friendly greeting at the beginning of every interaction. All of this was done in the planning phase so that when we went into build and test, the team had a list of requirements that they knew they needed to make happen within the technology that makes Artie come to life. Within this space, Artie was being built and tested by people across the organization. I know we had the enterprise development team in there trying to hack Artie, see what they could do with some harmful prompting, make sure that Artie wasn't giving any responses that just aren't safe or aren't accurate as well. With that, we were able to take the feedback, find the areas in which Artie wasn't doing the right thing or responding the right way, and make some updates there before moving forward in the process, getting Artie reviewed, validating the capabilities and his responses.
Yeah. And
in
one of
the
the
review
things that
phase.
happened in that build spot too, regarding the sort of depth and accuracy of answers, is we had to build a process to be able to quickly update and modify the information, right? So if it came to our attention that Artie was answering a question with information that might not be of the quality we want, we had to get basically build a pipeline to be able to say, how do we capture the correct information? How do we course correct Artie? And how do we make sure that course correction is permanent, right? So that's one of the things that sort of, it's hard to test or plan for that until you're in the space where it's occurring.
Moving ahead in the process, in review, our legal team got engaged. They supported in the development of the terms of use agreement, again, making sure that leveraging Artie as an organization was in line with our technology policy. As a team, we did some final testing, making sure responses were in line, and that when we were to make this live for each and every one of you in the organization, Artie was going to be successful.
Yeah.
So when we launched in August of this year, August 1st or 2nd, we sent out that company-wide email. We let each and every one of you know where to find Artie. And I believe we even gave a quick demo on how to interact with Artie. Along with that part of our launch phase, we met with the HR team to make sure that they were ready to adopt Artie as a team member. We spoke with them on ways in which they could infuse Artie into their process, such as announcing Artie to our new hires during the foundations class, directing the new hires to Artie for questions that they may have as it relates to HR related content. And then now, when our HR team members get asked questions that they know Artie is capable of answering, we have it as part of the process for our HR team to reference Artie as the solution for this question. Like, hey, you can use Artie actually to get this information. Rather than also taking the time to give the answer, just directing right back to Artie so that it becomes habit and that Artie is adopted as that fourth team member of our HR department. And today, we are now in the continuous improvement phase with Artie. We sent out those feedback surveys a couple of weeks back, and we've been continuously analyzing the data, the feedback you all have been giving on Artie. What Artie's doing well, what capabilities you thought Artie might have had on day one, and from there, what you're expecting Artie to be able to do in the future. We have a backlog now of these enhancements, and we're going through the process of bringing them through ideation to launch with new and improved versions of Artie. So more to come in that space, but through collecting your feedback, we're also able to get that assessment of the value that Artie is actually bringing to our organization today, already just 1 month in. It's exciting stuff. We have Artie live. You saw the journey that we took Artie through to become real, applied AI here at Impact. And that's not the only place or the only solution that AI is in action here at Impact. You can see on this screen several different AI solutions, and underneath each, the value that has already been unlocked across the organization for both Impact as a company and our employees, each one of you, and the time savings, the productivity gains you're seeing from leveraging AI. We'll start with Artie and talk through some of these statistics, but in just 1 month, we were able to see and estimate about 40 hours or more worth of HR related questions and answers fielded by Artie. The 40 hours comes from Artie's average response time being 7.9 seconds. When we think about the process, the average human, our above average HR team members take to respond to a question, they're going to take the time to make it personable, have that human quality effect, and that's time. Artie is doing that same thing in a matter of seconds and providing the response to each and every one of you that you're looking for. So that really sped up the process. We're seeing that value being unlocked for our HR team. And as I mentioned, that's not the only place AI is in action. I sat down with the marketing and the production team a couple weeks back now, as there's some licensing that we have for ChatGPT and Midjourney. We wanted to assess what the use cases were that the team members are using these tools for and the value that they're seeing in their workflows. So for the marketing team, we see use cases such as helping draft content creation, helping brainstorm content as well for blog posts, for presentations, doing market research tasks, speeding up the efficiency of those, doing work in the SEO process that Dorian follows every week. It's been estimated with that conversation that about 9 hours a week has been saved across this team through leveraging AI within each and every one's individual workflows. When it comes to the organizational gains and value, you can see with the return on investment through impact investing in those licenses for ChatGPT and Midjourney that it's an incredible number, and it is a no-brainer for us to invest in this technology for our employees to use. The same thing can be said about our Copilot licensing. We're now in the third power group of people across Impact using Copilot in their everyday workflows and assessing the value that team members from our PMO organization, from MDX, MIT, IMM, are receiving through leveraging these AI solutions in their workflows. The same thing, you see the time savings and the ROI in leveraging this technology is absolutely incredible and should be inspiring.
Yeah, ROI in the thousands of percentage points is hard to get, but yeah, this is the kind of return that we're seeing on these things.
Yeah, good
Great stuff, Anna. Where are we at?
Good stuff. Call to action. We're not gonna let you stop talking about AI, and we're definitely not going to stop talking about AI. So John,
sure,
keep talking about it.
Yeah. I think it's important for everyone. Like, continue to engage with technology. Continue to ask customers, to ask prospects, understand where people are at, where their journey is, and I'm going to almost guarantee you that most organizations you're going to run into, they are not as far along as we are. We are very much building a center of excellence model that's pushing our organization forward. We're a great use case to have those conversations, to start those conversations, and then continue to bolster those relationships. So yeah, keep learning, keep engaging with the technology, keep championing this space, and ultimately just stay curious of what's happening. Right? Get in there, play with the technology. Like, you have access, you can make it work. And then our next upcoming webinar is the 17th. So that's the 17th of October, not yesterday. And Frank Kuko has graciously agreed to spend some time with me in conversation around AI. So there'll be some interesting things that come up in there, I'm sure. So Frank and I talking on the 17th. And then we also have the use case contest still exists out in the world, and here's the safe QR code that you can go in there, and you can fill out the form and give us your ideas. Did I miss anything, Anna?
You didn't.